Now, we had the race that stops the nation earlier today, but we also had the rate, R-A-T-E, that stops the nation. If we go to the front of the Fin Review, RBA target a medium-term goal. That's the splash head. 2 to 3% inflation rate cut, expectations pushed out. Expectations for another interest rate cut have slipped further following an upbeat assessment of the economic outlook by the Reserve Bank of Australia, which kept its cash rate on hold at 0.75% and signalled that a return to higher inflation could be achieved over the medium term, echoing Treasurer Josh Frydenberg's view at the Australian Financial Review yesterday that inflation would return to its target over the medium term. Dr Lowe said the central scenario remained for inflation to pick up, but to do so only gradually. And of course, the Australian dollar sort of appreciated probably about 0.75%, Leisa Goddard, off the back of the hold in interest rates. So it looks as if the interest rates to some degree have stabilised.
Yeah, it was frightening. We looked like we were going down a very slippery slope with those interest rate cuts that just progressively kept coming at us. But great news that we're seeing that housing prices are increasing. There was a headline, I think, in the last couple of days that I saw that in Sydney and Melbourne, housing prices have had the biggest gains they've seen in a decade. So you're looking at 2.3% in the month of October. So that has to be a good sign, and it has to, buoy economists and hopefully give some confidence into the community again to start spending and get that money back moving.
Maddie, there's no doubt in the world that the whole housing market in this country has certainly started to pick up, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney, in the last sort of 6 to 12 months. So that's good news.
Well, it's good news if you own a house in Melbourne or Sydney, I suppose, Leisa. It hasn't been great news here in Darwin. I've got to tell you, I think house prices are down more than 30% from their peak of about 4 or 5 years ago and still appear to be heading south. So people in Darwin certainly are getting no joy from the housing market at the moment. I think it's a similar situation in Perth. But I do agree that I think we've probably seen interest rates go as low as they're going to go, 0.75%, given that growth that we're now seeing in the market in Melbourne and Sydney and in Hobart, I think we should add. Chris Jones, if you're watching, hello. But I do think that now that those house prices are picking up in Melbourne, Sydney and Hobart, we will see perhaps interest rates flatten out. They'll probably remain where they are for a while and then perhaps pick up again. So I'm pretty happy I managed to fix my loan for 3 years a couple of weeks ago, Leisa. I reckon I made the right decision.
You probably did. One of the many great decisions you make. Now, with the cash rate being left on hold at an all-time low of 0.75%, the decision to pause after the October cut was largely expected, given a marginal improvement in unemployment and a modest uptick in inflation. Sky News business editor Tikki Fullerton caps today's events.
It was very much expected. No surprises. Definitely on hold again. Having had 3 rate cuts this year of 0.75% in total, I think it was time for a breather. That's certainly what was indicated in the statement that came with the Reserve Bank. The market reacted again as you'd expect. It was up very slightly, 0.15%, 6697. Aussie dollar up slightly, 0.3 to 6903. So. Generally, I think it was expected, relatively boring result. But I would say that on the stock front, Westpac came back on after it was off the boards because of its big capital raising on the back of that rather disappointing result. Profits down 15%. When it came back on the boards, it slammed down 5%. Finished up actually 2.5% down today. Rest of the banks were up slightly.
All right, there was Tikki Fullerton with the latest from today's interest rate being kept on hold.